It was 9 o'clock on a Tuesday night. I was sitting in my apartment in Austin, Texas, trying to decide between finishing a budget report or just going to bed when my phone buzzed. It was a text from my Uncle Gregory. Thought you'd want to see this from Sunday dinner. I frowned. Sunday dinner? I hadn't been invited. I pressed play. The video was shaky, filmed on a phone. I saw my father David at the head of the table raising a glass. My brother Kyle was next to him grinning. To Kelsey, my father said, his voice slurring just a little, "Our very own cash cow. She may be a worthless burden, but at least she pays the bills." The table laughed. And Kyle raised his glass higher and said, "She's just desperate to prove she matters." Drop a comment and let me know where you're listening from. I'd love to know who's part of our community tonight. I closed the video. I didn't throw my phone. The anger I felt wasn't hot. It was cold. It was clarifying. It was the kind of sharp, quiet focus you get when a balance sheet finally adds up. I sat there for a minute just listening to the hum of my refrigerator. Then I opened my laptop. I logged into my bank. My movements were calm, methodical. I went to the bill pay section. There it was scheduled for tomorrow, the 1st of the month. A recurring automatic transfer. Recipient Family Legacy Fund. Amount $3,000. I looked at the video on my phone one more time. My father's smiling face. Cash cow. I moved my cursor to the transfer. I clicked edit. I clicked cancel this series. A little box popped up. Are you sure you want to cancel all future payments to Family Legacy Fund? I clicked confirm. It was done. 48 months of sacrifice erased in a single click. You have to understand, I started paying 4 years ago. My father David had called me. It was the only time I'd ever heard him sound truly scared. He said his business, the business he always called his legacy, was on the brink of failure. He said he'd made some bad investments that the bank was calling, that he was going to lose everything. He told me he'd created the Family Legacy Fund to save it, a private account to keep the business afloat. He couldn't ask Kyle, he said. Kyle had his own family to think about. But me, I was the responsible one. The accountant, the single one with no attachments. He asked me if I could help, just until he got back on his feet. I said yes. Of course I said yes. He was my father. So for 4 years, I sent $3,000 on the 1st of every month. 48 payments, a total of $144,000. That money was the reason I still live in a tiny studio apartment in Austin. It's the reason I drive a 15-year-old car and buy my groceries on sale. I put every dream I had on hold. I gave up saving for a down payment. I skipped vacations. I worked overtime, all to save his legacy. And all the while, I was nothing but a joke to them. A worthless burden who was desperate to prove she matters. I looked at the payment canceled confirmation on my screen. I wasn't just canceling a payment. I was canceling a subscription. The subscription to a family that never wanted me, only what I could provide. I've been asked why I didn't see it sooner. Why I would send over $144,000 to people who clearly didn't respect me. It's a fair question. But you have to understand that money was never just money. It was an invisible chain. It was the price of admission. When you grow up as the reliable one, the scapegoat, you learn that love isn't given freely. It's earned. You learn to survive. You develop strategies. Mine was to be useful. As long as I was the one solving problems, paying the bills, being the responsible accountant, I had a function. I couldn't be discarded. That $3,000 a month wasn't a gift. It was a subscription. It was the only way I knew how to buy my place at the table to prove I wasn't the worthless burden they'd always implied I was. It's a prison without bars, this kind of hope. You keep paying thinking that one day the payment will finally be enough. You think one day they'll finally see you. That night, watching that video, I finally understood. The payment would never be enough. I woke up the next morning to the buzzing of my phone. The first text was from my father, David. It read, "Gregory told me about the video. Don't be so sensitive. It was just family joking around." Joking? Seconds later, a text from my brother, Kyle. "You're really going to throw a fit over a joke. Grow up." I stared at those messages, and I didn't feel anger. I felt a cold, clinical clarity. They weren't even trying to apologize. They genuinely didn't think they'd done anything wrong. This is the trap of what I call cruelty normalization. In some families, especially ones built on a strict hierarchy, contempt isn't an event. It's the environment. Mocking the scapegoat becomes the normalized language. It's how they bond. It's how my father and brother reinforced their own positions. To them, it was just a joke. They weren't shocked by their own cruelty. They were just shocked that I had finally stopped playing my part. An hour later, a new text from David popped up. The tone was different. No more joking, just cold, hard business. "Kelsey, the transfer for the fund didn't arrive. You need to fix this immediately." Not, "Are you okay?" Not, "Can we talk?" Just, "Fix it." I read that last message, and the last link of that invisible chain just turned to dust. The cash cow was officially off the clock, and the accountant was about to start her audit. I ignored the calls. I let the texts pile up. I put my phone on silent face down on the counter. The buzzing was a distraction. My father's arrogance, my brother's dismissal, it gave me the final green light. They thought this was a family drama. They were wrong. This was an accounting error, and I am a very good accountant. My professionalism, the part of me I'd built entirely on my own, took over. I didn't get emotional. I got organized. I spent the next 8 hours doing what I do best. I opened a new Excel file. I named it Legacy Fund Audit. I pulled every bank statement from the last 4 years. I went through them line by line. Date October 1st, 2021. Transfer $3,000. Date November 1st, 2021. Transfer $3,000. Date December 1st, 2021. Transfer $3,000. I documented all 48 payments, every single one. I created a summary tab, a simple, clean ledger. Total contributions, $144,000. I saved the spreadsheet as a PDF. Then I opened a new email. The to field was a list of my entire family. My father, David, my brother, Kyle, my uncle, Gregory, my aunt, Denise, who had been laughing in that video, and even my cousin, Brianna. I wanted no one to be able to claim they didn't know. The subject line was cold. Formal notice repayment of $144,000 loan. I kept the body of the email brief. Factual, lethal, to whom it may concern. For the past 48 months, I have made contributions to the Family Legacy Fund under the explicit understanding that these funds were necessary to save David's business. The attached video, which I received last night, confirms this was a misrepresentation. The funds were not being used for their stated purpose. Instead, they were being used to finance a lifestyle while I was being referred to as a cash cow and worthless burden. As such, I am formally recalling my entire contribution of $144,000 effective immediately. This amount is now considered a personal loan due in full. Attached, you will find a detailed ledger of all payments made. Please respond within 30 business days with a formal repayment plan. If a plan is not proposed and agreed upon by that date, I will be forwarding this file to my attorney to pursue all legal options available. Do not contact me by phone. All future correspondence regarding this matter must be in writing. Sincerely, Kelsey. I attached the spreadsheet. I attached the video file. I read it over one last time. It was perfect. I hit send. I went to work the next day. I sat in my office in Austin, entered data, and ran reports. My personal phone was in my desk drawer, set to silent. I didn't check it, not once. Let them panic. Let them realize that the cash cow was no longer in the field. Let them scramble. When I got home that evening, I poured myself a glass of water and finally looked at my phone. It was a digital wildfire, 38 missed calls, dozens of texts from David Kyle and my Aunt Denise. They were a mix of pure rage and confused panic. You can't do this. This is a family matter. You have no right. Kelsey, call me. Your father is hysterical. You've created a mess. I read them all and I felt nothing. It was just noise. Then I saw an email in my personal inbox. It was from an anonymous encrypted address. The subject line was just 2 words, "For your audit." My heart sped up. I opened it. There was no text, just a single password-protected PDF attachment. A text message came in from an unknown number. The password is his birthday. All numbers. My father's birthday. I typed it in. The file opened. It was bank statements for the Family Legacy Fund. 3 years of them. My hands didn't shake. My accountant brain took over. This was my world. Numbers, data, truth. It took me less than 5 minutes to see the first problem. This wasn't a business account. There were no vendor payments, no payroll, no rent. It was a slush fund. I saw charges for golf club memberships, restaurant bills, a down payment on a luxury car. And then I saw it. A recurring monthly transfer. Kyle H. Disbursement. Amount $2,000 every single month for 3 years. I did the math. My father was taking my $3,000, giving $2,000 of it to my brother, and using the rest for his own lifestyle. He wasn't saving a legacy. He was funding a lie. And Kyle. Kyle wasn't just laughing at me in that video. He was laughing at me while cashing my checks. He wasn't just a golden child. He was a co-conspirator. I looked at the statements again. This wasn't just a family loan gone bad. This wasn't just unkind. This was fraud. This was tax evasion. This was criminal. I closed the PDF. I didn't call my lawyer. I didn't call my uncle. I opened a new, secure, anonymous email account. I created a new encrypted file. I put everything in it. My original spreadsheet, the video, the bank statements. I wrote a simple, clear, 1-paragraph summary of the situation. I addressed it to the whistleblower division of the Internal Revenue Service. My father was always worried about his legacy. I just made sure the IRS knew exactly what it was. I hit send. Weeks passed. The 30-day deadline for my repayment plan came and went. The family's texts turned from rage to desperation. My father's threats of lawsuits stopped. My brother's insults just stopped. The silence that followed was heavy. I didn't need to wonder what was happening. My Uncle Gregory kept me informed. The IRS audit is in full swing, he texted me one afternoon. They're moving fast. They've already frozen the fund account and David's personal assets pending the investigation. I simply texted back, "Thank you for the update." I felt a strange, cold peace. This wasn't my problem anymore. I had handed the ledger to the authorities, and the numbers were doing the talking. Then one Thursday evening, there was a knock on my apartment door. Not a text, not a call. A knock. I looked through the peephole and my blood ran cold. It was David and Kyle. They were standing outside my door in Austin, looking like ghosts. My father, who was always so proud, looked small. His suit was wrinkled, his face gray. Kyle looked like he hadn't slept in a week, his eyes darting around nervously. I took a breath. I unlocked the deadbolt and opened the door, but I didn't move to let them in. Kelsey, my father, started, and his voice cracked. It was the first time I'd ever heard him sound broken. "Kelsey, please, you have to help us." I just looked at him. "Help you with what, David?" "The IRS," Kyle blurted out, stepping forward. They're tearing everything apart. They're looking at everything. Years of taxes. The business." David found his voice again. "You're an accountant. You understand this stuff. You can fix this. You can talk to them. Tell them it was a misunderstanding. You can call them off." I stared at him. I almost laughed. After all this, after everything they'd said, they hadn't come to apologize. They had come for free accounting services. "Call them off," I said, my voice as calm and flat as a spreadsheet. "This isn't a rounding error, David. This is a federal investigation. An investigation I initiated. I can't call them off." "But your family," he pleaded, taking a step closer. I didn't move. "Family," I repeated the word. "When you took my money, you called me a cash cow. When you thought I was useless, you called me a worthless burden. You don't get to call me family now that you're about to lose everything." "Kelsey, I didn't mean it," Kyle whispered. "It was just, we were just." "You were just what, joking?" I looked straight at him. "You were cashing $2,000 checks every month from my money and laughing about it. You weren't sorry you did it. You were just sorry you got caught." My father looked completely defeated. "What do you want, Kelsey Money? Is that it? We'll figure out a way to pay you back." "I don't want your money," I said. "I've already sent you my terms. The 30 days are over. This isn't a negotiation." I looked at both of them, these two men who had held all the power in my life for 32 years. They looked pathetic. "This conversation is over. Get out of my apartment." I closed the door, locked the deadbolt, and leaned against it, listening, as their footsteps shuffled away down the hall. The aftermath wasn't dramatic. It was just a series of quiet, administrative steps. It was the sterile sound of an empire collapsing on paper. My uncle told me the IRS had seized all of David's business assets. The legacy he was so proud of, the one he'd used to justify his cruelty, was gone. The house in Westlake Hills, the one I was never truly welcome in, was foreclosed, sold at auction, to pay a fraction of the massive tax bill he owed. Kyle was officially named as a co-conspirator in the fraud. His golden child status didn't mean much to the federal government. I sat in my apartment, the one I'd paid for with my own work. I opened my laptop and pulled up the file one last time. Legacy, Fund, Audit.xlsx. I stared at the grand total at the bottom of the spreadsheet. $144,000. It looked like the price of my freedom. I moved the cursor over the file. I right-clicked. I hit delete. I watched the icon disappear, and I felt nothing, just peace. We're taught that cutting ties with family is the most unnatural, heartless thing a person can do. We're told that blood is thicker than water, but they never tell you what to do when that blood is toxic. They don't tell you how to survive when the people who are supposed to love you are the ones slowly poisoning you. I've learned that letting go isn't an act of hate, it's an act of survival. It's the ultimate act of self-preservation. It's looking at the wreckage of your past and finally giving yourself permission to stop setting yourself on fire just to keep them warm. My father's story was over, but mine was just beginning. And for anyone out there who has ever been made to feel small by the people who were supposed to build you up, I hope my story reminds you that your value is not determined by their approval. Have you ever had to make a hard choice to protect your own peace? Share your story in the comments. Your voice matters.